Former Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel right now. Secretary Hagel, thanks very much for joining us.
Maria, thank you.
Well, you hear it all day long, every day in this environment. What is your view on the 2016 race?
Well, it's another American presidential election year, and that's part of our system, Maria. This one, I think, in any book would be a little different than what we've seen in the past, but it reflects a political environment that exists in this country, and I think that political environment is also reflective of what's going on in the world. We've got a world that is moving from a post-World War II world order into a new world order. Politics just reflects society. It reflects people's angers and loves and disconnects and concerns, and this world today that we live in is as volatile as we've seen any time since World War II. So I think the kind of presidential election that we're seeing here reflects all of that, and I'm not sure we should be too surprised. I'm not happy with it. I'm disappointed in a lot of the conduct of the candidates. I think most of Americans are, but it is our system, and we'll get through it. Our country's too big. No candidate is or president is bigger than our country.
Right. But there are serious issues in the world today. I mean, you have had a front seat to what's going on in terms of foreign policy and in terms of terrorism being on the ground. How tough was it for you to run the Defense Department in the face of politics seeping into what you're trying to achieve with these important and serious issues that we're faced, like terrorism?
Well, that's an important question because our system, again, gives our political order the responsibility to essentially elect our representatives who govern. And those in government are responsive and accountable to our elected officials. But when politics overtakes good decision-making, whether it's the Pentagon or the State Department or any bureaucracy, then it paralyzes, not only polarizes, but paralyzes government. When you shut down government like we did in 2013 for 16 days, I mean, that's insane. That's completely irresponsible. That's forfeiting any responsible governance. Those kind of things make it more difficult for a Secretary of Defense or any cabinet member or any leader of any government to make the tough choices that you need to make to keep your agency and your department solvent on the cutting edge, especially defense. We have but one objective, that is the security of this country. And that should never be compromised by politics. Unfortunately, I think we've seen a drift in the wrong direction over the last few years. And both parties, by the way, in my opinion, are responsible for it. I was in the United States Senate for 12 years before I was Secretary of Defense. I saw it coming. I saw both sides playing games with this, and we're going to have to get that corrected, and this next president is going to face a monumental task in turning that around with the Congress.
What should we be doing now, or what should have been done in terms of getting our arms around ISIS and defeating ISIS at this point?
Well, I recall, Maria, when I was asked at a news conference about 3 years ago at the Pentagon about ISIS, and I said something to the effect, and I think this is pretty close to the exact words, that this is a force that we have never seen before. And I wasn't embraced with that by the White House and a lot of others because the president had just recently referenced ISIS as junior varsity. And I never saw it that way because what ISIS is and how did it come about, which we really not gone back and tried to sort out. We seem to always deal with the back end of problems, not the front end. How did they come about? That this is an organization that is better funded than any terrorist group we've ever seen. They have an ideology that anchors it. They are more sophisticated in their military prowess and tactical abilities. And so it's a long-term effort. It isn't a short-term effort. The problems that for us we have, and I think the Western world, is containing it enough because you can't conventionally, militarily defeat them. Yes, there is a conventional military component to them, But it's bigger than that. It's social, it's religious, it's sectarian. It's the people of the Middle East are going to have to really come to grips with this, as we all are. So it's a combination of all these things, Maria.
Well, I mean, this is important because the words matter in terms of defeating this horrible group. I mean, do you think it was just a narrative that the president believed, an ideology that was just what the president thought, and it didn't matter that you were on the ground, it didn't matter that other military men and women were telling the president, this is real and we need to get tougher? I mean, was that what it was? He just didn't want to believe it to be true?
No, I don't think it's that at all. I mean, this president, like all presidents I've worked with and known since Richard Nixon, are serious people. They take their job seriously. But to your point, I think there's always a certain amount of subjective analysis in this. And I think there are different views toward intelligence agencies and toward the Pentagon, for example. Is the Pentagon overstating? Are they too militaristic? Is the intelligence community not getting it right? Should we always essentially believe what they're saying? Should we question more? These are difficult decisions, and they're not easy for anybody. But I don't think it's a matter of not taking these threats seriously. But in the end, these subjective decisions then result in policy. Okay, we're going to do this or not do this, or do some of this or not some of this. And you're not going to get it all right. But in something like this, we saw this coming over the last few years, our intelligence community. Nobody was smart enough or got it all. Absolutely, nobody did. But there were other dynamics in play here that I think often get left out of the equation. The collapse of Syria, what happened in Syria, which really gave ISIS a homeland, a base to work from, and the other dynamics. I think our invasion of Iraq in 2003 precipitated a lot of this because it essentially just blew up an order in the Middle East. You look at the Middle East today, there are countries with no functioning governments, no functioning militaries.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be living with that kind of a world in the Middle East for a while.
Yeah, and a number of the things that you mentioned, I think partly goes into the reason that we don't have the allies that we did at one point in the Middle East. You said the Middle East has to also do its part.